But I am so pleased to have Bess Haile here tonight. She is a dear friend I have known for a very long time. Yes. We've been colleagues for a long time, and one of the most creative people I know. And I'm so thrilled that she's written this book called Brains. My job is a little bit of housekeeping. If you haven't been here before, there are restrooms around the back there. To your right, so help yourself. We are so fortunate to have generous funding from the Virginia Commission on the Arts, the Jezebel DuPont Fund, and the River Counties Community Foundation. So this evening, we are very fortunate that everyone is going to receive a copy of Bess's book, Brains, thanks to the grant funding. And once she's done with her fabulous workshop, Bess, what we're going to do is have you adjourn to the other side of that wall, and she'll sign her books for you. Okay? So, without further ado, Bess, welcome.
Thank you. And I'm really happy to be here. As Alice said, my name is Bess Haile, and I'd like to ask how many of you keep a diary or Okay, I can tell by the giggling. Most of you have found a moment of conclusion. Keep writing if you want. You don't have to stop. But I'd like to ask you all some questions now. Normally they say, do you have any questions? But was anybody surprised? Did anybody have a surprise when they were writing that? An idea that you hadn't realized was bubbling down there? No surprises. You already kind of knew that what you were looking for. Well, the more I did this process, the more fun I had kind of tapping into, maybe I just talk too much and my poor little right brain never gets to hear what it wants, but I just found this to be a very liberating and freeing opportunity to just sit quietly and listen to what I really want. And the more you ask yourself, how are you doing? What do you want? How can I help? The more your right brain is able to quieten the chatter around you. It's a very noisy world we live in. A lot of people feel like they have to fill in all the blanks. When I made this journal, I didn't put too many blanks in so that it would be easy for you to fill in the blanks if you liked to, but it wouldn't take you the rest of your life. I have an awful lot of journals at home that have the first 10 pages or the first 50 pages filled, but then the back half ends up getting used for grocery lists. So what I wanted, but I really just wanted people to have that opportunity to just tap in to that right brain, and my right brain got to the point where it would actually speak at the keyboard. So that's how I could write so many blogs, because I knew when the right brain was telling me how I was feeling, and then my left brain would kick in and say, well, look, do you want me to make a list or do you want to just complain? And then the right brain would say, I want a list. That's the only way that's going to get me where I need to go. And you really find that you cooperate with, it's just a great way to get rid of writer's block, artist block, knitter's block, carpenter's block, anything that you love to do that you're not doing. Ask your right brain, why am I not doing what I want to do? And it will tell you. It will tell you what it's not happy about. And there's a chapter in the book about a terrible school teacher I had. I mean, she was so bad that I can still kind of foam at the mouth when I talk about her. But it also was, and the question really was, the left brain was saying, look, are you ruining your life because you're still mad at a teacher you had when you were 10 and honey, you're 70? Well, I wasn't 70 when I wrote that, but I was getting close to 70. That's a long time to be mad. And it was a great way to kind of reassess some things that hurt, that were still hurting decades later. And you could kind of work that out and find what was good out of it, find what was not so good. I can remember breaking down at a Starbucks right after my husband's third heart attack, and it came at Christmas, and I was so upset because it ruined all our Christmas plans, which then made me feel so guilty because I should have been just happy that he was alive, when I was mad at him because he ruined Christmas. And the left brain and the right brain had to work that one out, and that's in the book too, so you can see how they work that out. It's more than just a way to tap into your creativity. It's really a way to listen to yourself as a whole person. My whole person is so full of noisy chatterers, they needed 3 personalities to speak. But I hope that you all will have fun with this sometime in the future. And if you have any questions, ask away. Yes, it's very similar. Yes. Actually, the first person I ever heard who discussed the right brain, left brain theory was the woman who wrote Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. Have any of you worked with that book? Isn't that the coolest thing? When I ran the library, we opened late on Fridays, and all my staff who wanted to learn how to draw, we sat down one summer, and every Friday morning, we came in early and did all the lessons in that book. And every one of us, even the girl who could only draw stick figures and box cars, and triangle trees. At the end, she could draw better. So yeah, it's exactly the same thing. And I'll tell you something else. Martha Beck was an undergrad student at Harvard, a grad student at Harvard doing TA work with, I think her name was Betty Smith. And she was actually working with the woman who wrote Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And she took it out. Well, she's not the one who wrote Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. That was the... wait a minute. It's in here. It's in the bibliography, because I do think that's a book everybody should... Edwards. Betty Edwards was her name. Betty Edwards. Don't worry, you get a copy of the book with the bibliography in it. All of the books that I drew from to come up with this idea are in the back on a list. So, how many of you have worked with the book, The Artist's Way? Didn't you think she was the gloomiest woman you've ever read? What a meanie! I have tried. I mean, it's a huge book. It's a great book to have to stack things on. But she's so, I mean, if I had to write as much pain as she told me I was going to write about, I just slit my throat. I think I don't even want to live if I'm that miserable. Too awful. And I'm obviously a different author, a different person would respond to her writing, her recommendations in a different way. It always, I mean, everybody's going to respond in her own unique way to whatever somebody writes, but I've tried to go through that. I finally gave myself permission to write my own book. So what worked for me was to be a little gentler, a little kinder, and laugh a lot more at myself. Yes.
I used to play older specialists in psychiatry. So I often did work with patients who had struggles with themselves or others, and I would do this kind of technique with two chairs. Get up and
Yes, exactly. You go ahead and read both sides of the issue, because, as you know, they say, no matter how flat the pancake, it's still got two sides, and both of them are pancakes. So yes, it's really and I think it's the muscles, it's making your brain operate the muscles of an unfamiliar hand to do something that's a familiar task. And that's just something that allows you time to listen to who you are and what you're curious about. Yes?
I like to write, but, and I'm trying to work on the book now, but I always start from the ending.
Oh, of course, the best advice I ever heard of a writer on how to do that, Robbins, I think his name is, not Tom Robbins, but the one from Richmond who wrote Stranger at the Gate and the story about West Point, fire burning. Well, he's a Richmond author, and he came down and somebody asked that exact same question, and he said, what you want to think about when you're writing is imagine the batter at the home plate, and he's got to get to first base. So you know where you start, you swing that bat and connect. And you know that you're going to get there at that base, and that's all you got to, and then you can flow through that way. So you need to know where you're starting, and you need to know where you're ending, and then all you have to do is run down the baseline. I thought that sounded pretty darn cool. And the other tip I will give you two other tips. Please don't put too much genealogy at the beginning not too much backstory. Trust people to jump in where that bat connects with the ball. They're willing to jump over that point. And how many of you read The Far Pavilions? Oh gosh, this is 30 years ago. 40 years ago. It's a long book. The book is this thick, was advertised on TV all the time. And I took it home. I was going to be a good girl, good librarian, and read that book. And I thought I would die because the first 90 chapters are genealogy. of Indian families, so you'll never be able to. So I thought, well, I'll read that last chapter and see if it's any good. And I read the last chapter, and it was great. And I read the next to the last chapter, and I actually read that entire book backwards, chapter at a time. And there was that point when I got to all that backstory that was not necessary. The story is the run from the home plate to first base. It doesn't even have to be the whole way around. You just start to that goal. And I think that's why I really identified with this story, because it's so easy to kind of make sure everybody knows all the backstory before this event occurs. And you don't need to do that. And the other tip I will give you is write every day. I was a performing musician before I was a librarian, played in the Richmond Symphony, practiced every day. That's what you do if you're gonna, you don't have to practice a lot. Not every day you practice an hour or 2 or 3, but every day. Give it, love it, own it, and give it a half an hour of your life. Mm-hmm. Well, if there are no more questions, I hope you feel a little bit more creative. And if you don't feel like you got an answer today, I hope you are curious enough to try it at least one more time and have a lot of fun with it. And I have loved being here today. Thank you so much. And you get the book. You don't have to buy the book, it's yours. So I'll be out front signing.